Welcome back, Angle of Pursuit. I'm your host, Ryan Lencl. And as promised, we were trying to track down Howard Balzer, and we had a little communication problem on our end, and luckily he bailed us out by getting in touch with us. We are happy to have him from ESPN 101, Howard Balzer. How you doing, Mr. Balzer?
Doing very good. How about yourself?
We're doing well. We've had sort of a heavy heart, I think, in a way, because obviously this Penn State stuff, we're not far from Penn State, in the bigger picture, and we have a lot of Penn State grads that are in this area, and it's been an active day for phone calls. It's obviously a huge story, so, it's kind of a heavier day, but I'm glad to be able to switch gears a little bit and talk about some NFL.
Yeah, no, that is, it's kind of almost numbing in a way, hearing all this, and then also wondering what else is down the road in terms of this wild story. And I grew up back east. I had a lot of friends who went to Penn State. In fact, when I was choosing a college a long time ago, it came down to two schools, and Penn State was one of them, and I chose a different one. But yeah, it's pretty hard to believe that something like this has occurred on so many different levels.
Really, really shocking. I mean, I am just taken aback. So we've been talking about it, and we've had open lines, but like I said, sports are usually our diversion, and that's exactly what we've got now. We've got an interesting game coming up here on Sunday. I think we have a lot of similarities in a strange way between these two teams. Yeah. I mean, they are obviously, I think, some of the stamp with us taking Shermer as our head coach. He probably obviously has a very good working knowledge of the Rams, I would think.
No, yeah, I would think he would, obviously, seeing that defense and, in practice, every day, although sometimes that's a little bit overblown, because in practice every day when the regular season starts, you don't actually see the Rams' defense. You're seeing the defense of the team they're going to play. But certainly during training camp and all that, and you have a pretty good knowledge. And the other aspect too, when you think about it, is that Pat Shermer, in all his years in Philadelphia, which was the initial, the initial connection that got him to St. Louis, is that this is the defense that the Eagles played, that the Rams played in all the years when Shermer was with the Eagles. So yeah, that there is that familiarity. And then of course from the Rams' defensive standpoint, they're going against the offense that the Rams played last year under Pat Shermer. And I'll tell you, the most intriguing thing to me in all of this is that after last season, I mean, there was, quite honestly, a certain amount of criticism of Pat Shermer last year from the fan base, who, and you know how the fans are, no matter what you do, it's never right unless you just win the championship. But it's also, how come you're not throwing the ball down the field, and how come you're not doing this, and how come you're not doing that? But I always felt that Pat Shermer did a great job last year with a rookie quarterback and, not a lot of great receivers, and doing everything he could to keep Sam Bradford protected. And when they did develop Denario Alexander as a little bit of a deep threat, they did take some shots downfield, and he helped them win some games. But there were those who said, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, then he leaves, and there's almost a lot of people rejoicing. The Rams get Josh McDaniels, and everybody's, he's going to open the offense, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. And I think some of that has contributed to some of the Rams' struggles this year coming out of the box. And of course, the other irony is that Shermer, in a sense, is basically doing with Colt McCoy and the Browns offense what he did with the Rams last year, very similar, because there's not a whole lot of talent around McCoy. In fact, you could argue there's a whole lot less than the Rams had last year, because the Browns don't have Steven Jackson. So those things make this matchup really intriguing.
Howard Balzer, ESPN 101 in St. Louis. A question for you here. Honestly, Pat Shermer. I mean, you've seen him in the past, and you have a pretty intimate knowledge. Is he ready to be an NFL head coach? Because a lot of people in Cleveland are wondering that.
I think that's left for proving on the field. And whoever knows when someone's ready. Is it number of years? Is it how much experience? I mean, there's so many facets that go into being a head coach in the NFL. And to be honest, I don't know if anybody's ever really ready, because anyone who sees what a head coach is responsible for, you never know what it's like until you have to go through it. I mean, most assistant coaches, I always call them bunker coaches. They're pretty much in the bunker all the time. and they're just watching tape and grinding and coaching and doing all that. The head coach does a lot of that, obviously, but he's also the face of the franchise. He's the guy who has to deal with everybody. Every problem that occurs or every little thing off the field comes across his desk. You have to deal with the media basically on a daily basis. So there's all those things that no one can really know what it's like until you experience it. And so I guess the fairest way to answer is Pat Shermer's probably as ready as anybody else has ever been. Didn't have he had a number of years as an assistant, and he's trying to do both, which I think is always hard. To be an offensive coordinator, call the plays, and be the head coach for the entire team. But if you have that strong defensive coordinator and you delegate, those are the guys who do most of the coaching anyway. So, I think the big question is, can Pat Shermer or any guy who takes over, can he, in effect, set the tone for the team and his personality for what he wants the team to be? And most of the time, that takes some time to really establish that. So I think it's early to really make a judgment.
When we talk about the Rams, they're in an interesting position. They, of course, had the greatest show on turf. You look at all the success they had, and then they go through this period of rebuilding, and really the face of the franchise kind of becomes Steven Jackson, and you draft your quarterback of the future in Sam Bradford. He comes out last year, and he shows a lot of promise, and because of injuries and different issues, it's almost feels kind of like a half step back. How do you think everybody feels about Bradford at this point?
Yeah, I have to admit that I just chuckle, and I look and I say, when people talk about, and it's funny, at the station I do shows on here in St. Louis, I was listening just a little bit ago, and they're talking to somebody about, do you feel that Sam Bradford has regressed? And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, I don't think you regress. I mean, when you've experienced the league as a rookie, then you're way ahead of the game when you get into your second season. There's so much now that you really never knew before. But then you throw in this year, you throw in a lockout, you throw in a new offense, you throw in not having your running back healthy for the first few games of the season, you throw in receivers getting hurt and all those things, and all of a sudden your offense isn't producing. And then everybody points to the quarterback. And I don't see regression. Yeah, there's some things that he still needs to work on, and and he would be the first to say that I've got to be better. But I don't know. To me, to call it regression is just a word. But there's so many things that go on around the quarterback. I mean, he had so many drops in the first few weeks of the season that it was almost laughable. And so those are all things that contribute to how a team plays. So, I think he's fine. I think he's on an upward curve. I think they're starting to get comfortable now with this new offense, and they were starting to get it when he got hurt. I mean, they put 424 yards, on the board against Green Bay, and of course they didn't score points, and the red zone remains an issue. But they were looking pretty good. That he got hurt and he missed a couple of games, so now he's got to kind of get his rhythm back. But I think he's on, like I said, an upward curve, and I think he's going to be fine.